She threw her sunglasses on the table and shouted, "You don't belong here." Her son stood right behind her, arms crossed, smirking like he owned the place. I was standing by my own pool, on my own property, wondering what kind of people wake up and decide to start a war over nothing. The sun was hitting hard that afternoon. I'd just come back from a 14-hour night shift at the county station, still wearing my grey hoodie, coffee in one hand, towel in the other. My only plan was to sit by the water for 10 quiet minutes before heading to bed. But quiet doesn't exist when you've got a Karen for a neighbor. "Mom, he's the one I told you about," her son said, loud enough for the entire street to hear. "He keeps sneaking into our community pool." Community pool? I almost laughed. I'd built that pool myself 2 summers ago, after saving up for nearly a decade. The fence, the tiles, even the security cameras was all mine. Karen marched closer, heels clicking on the pavement. "You need to leave before I call the HOA and have you fined." She barked, waving a clipboard like it was a badge. I didn't move. I just took a sip of my coffee, slow. "You sure you want to do that?" I asked calmly. She grinned, thinking she'd won. "Oh, I'm sure. You people don't follow rules unless someone forces you to." That line hit harder than it should have. I saw her son snicker. He was maybe 20, spoiled, loud, and clearly raised to think the world bent for him. I finally stood up, looked her right in the eyes and said quietly, "You might want to check whose name's on the property before you start making threats." But Karen just rolled her eyes. "I am the HOA president. I know who lives here." I didn't respond. I just smiled, because she had no idea the man she was trying to kick out wasn't just a homeowner. He was the one who signed her last trespassing warning, and as she reached for her phone to call security, the corner camera above the gate blinked red, recording every word. This was going to get interesting. Karen was already dialing before I could even set my cup down. "Yes, I need officers at Maple Grove Lane. There's a trespasser at the pool again," she said, glancing at me like she was narrating a movie. Her son grinned, folding his arms tighter. I leaned against the fence, quiet. It wasn't the first time she'd tried this, but something about today felt different. Maybe it was the way her voice shook when she said again, like she was rehearsing a story she didn't believe herself. Her son smirked and stepped closer. "You're in big trouble, old man. My mom runs this whole neighborhood. You'll be out before dinner." I tilted my head slightly. "That so?" "Yeah," he said proudly. "She even knows the sheriff personally." That one almost made me laugh out loud. I took another sip of coffee instead. "You don't say." 10 minutes later, 2 squad cars pulled up. I could tell by the way Karen puffed her chest that she thought she'd already won. "Officers, over here," she shouted, waving them over like she'd summoned backup from heaven. The officers walked up slowly, hands resting near their belts. "Ma'am, what's going on?" one of them asked. "This man has been using our private HOA pool for weeks," she snapped, pointing at me like I was a fugitive. "He's refused to leave." "Arrest him." The taller cop looked at me. "Sir, can I see some ID?" I nodded and reached into my pocket, calm as ever. Karen smiled, whispering to her son, "Told you he's done." But the smile faded when the officer unfolded my badge, silver, clean, and very real. The cop's tone shifted instantly. "Sheriff Matthews." I didn't realize." Karen's mouth dropped open. "Wait, you're the sheriff?" Her son's face went pale. "Mom?" I tucked the badge back into my pocket, met her eyes and said quietly, "Yeah, the same sheriff you just called on your neighbor, standing in his own backyard." Silence fell heavy. Even the officers didn't move. Then Karen muttered something under her breath, but her son wasn't done yet. He stepped forward and shouted, "This isn't over. You can't threaten my mom." I just looked at him, calm but cold. "Son, you have no idea what you just started." And from the look on his mother's face, neither did she. The next morning I woke up to the sound of loud hammering outside. At first I thought it was just the construction crew fixing a broken fence, until I looked out my window. Karen's son, Tyler, was on a ladder nailing a giant wooden sign right across my driveway. The bold red letters read, "Private HOA property, trespassers will be fined." I opened the door slowly, half amused, half ready to lose my patience. "You really woke up early for this, huh?" I asked, walking toward him. He didn't even turn around. Mom says you need to learn how things work around here, he said, still hammering away. You might have scared her yesterday, but this isn't your world, Sheriff. I smirked. You're right. This is my property. He jumped down, eyes flashing. Not for long. HOA's voting to restrict pool use to approved members only. Guess who decides that? I folded my arms. Let me guess. Your mom? Smart man, he said, brushing off the dust. You'll be packing up in no time. I stared at him for a second. There was something too confident about the way he said it. Either Karen was bluffing hard, or she had something planned. An hour later, I found out which one it was. I got an email from the HOA board, or what looked like it. It claimed I was being fined $2,000 for violating property boundaries and unauthorized pool usage. There was even a fake signature from one of my old deputies, now working in city code enforcement. That's when I knew it wasn't just petty drama anymore. It was fraud. I grabbed my phone and called the county records office. Hey, can you check something for me? Maple Grove HOA. Who's listed as their acting president? The clerk replied, it says, Karen Walters, filed 2 weeks ago. My jaw tightened. 2 weeks ago, she wasn't even in charge of the HOA. She'd forged her way into the position. I leaned back in my chair and whispered to myself, so that's how you want to play it. Tyler and his mom thought this was just about a pool. They didn't realize they'd just faked government documents, and they'd done it against the wrong man. That night, I set up a camera facing their house. Not for revenge, for evidence, because something told me they weren't done yet. It was just past midnight when the motion alert buzzed on my phone. At first, I thought it was a raccoon near the trash cans, but then I saw the live feed. 2 shadows slipping through my backyard gate. Karen and Tyler. Karen whispered something I couldn't make out, but Tyler's voice came through clear. Mom, this is illegal, he said nervously, glancing over his shoulder. Quiet, she hissed. If we get photos of him using the pool after hours, the HOA can evict him for good. I almost laughed. They were really out here sneaking into my backyard at midnight to prove I was trespassing on my own property. From the security cam, I could see her snapping photos, her flash lighting up the water. Tyler followed her, holding a clipboard, pretending to look official. Then he tripped. The sound of metal scraping against concrete echoed through the yard. Karen froze. Tyler, she whispered sharply. Sorry, Mom. I dropped the clipboard. Before they could move, the floodlights kicked on. The entire backyard lit up like a football field. Karen froze, her face pale. Tyler shielded his eyes. What the? I stepped out from the patio, arms crossed, phone in hand. You two lost? Karen stammered. We were checking for safety issues. HOA inspection. In the middle of the night? I asked, raising an eyebrow. Tyler swallowed hard. We just needed evidence. Evidence, I repeated slowly. So you broke through my gate onto my property to get fake pictures for your fake fines. Karen straightened her shoulders, trying to regain her tone. You can't talk to us like that. We have rights. I smirked. You're right. You do. Can I have cameras? I lifted my phone and showed her the live recording. The expression on her face went from furious to terrified in 2 seconds flat. You recorded this? She asked, her voice shaking. Every second, I said calmly. With timestamps. So when I send it to the county investigator tomorrow, it'll go straight under criminal trespass and fraud. Tyler's voice cracked. Mom, we need to go. But Karen didn't move. She just stared at me, jaw tight. The kind of silence that comes from realizing you've just destroyed your own plan. I took 1 step closer. You wanted to play HOA president, huh? Congratulations. Tomorrow you'll get to explain your leadership skills in front of a real judge. Karen didn't say a word. She turned around slowly, grabbed her son's arm, and walked out of my gate. And just before she disappeared into the dark, I heard her whisper, more to herself than to him, he's not going to get away with this. I smiled to myself. Neither are you. The next day started quiet, too quiet. Karen's house, which usually buzzed with noise and gossip, was strangely calm. Not a single car in her driveway. Not even the sound of that annoying wind chime she loved. I knew that kind of silence. It wasn't peace. It was planning. Around noon, I heard sirens in the distance. Not the usual patrol tone, a short, fake wail followed by shouting. I stepped out onto my porch and saw two men in cheap black uniforms standing by her car. Karen was with them, grinning like she'd just caught a criminal. "There he is," she shouted. "Officers, that's the man trespassing on our property." The men walked up, one holding a plastic badge that didn't even shine under the sun. "Sir, you're under investigation by the HOA Enforcement Division," he said stiffly. I thought. The deputies looked at her unimpressed. "Ma'am, you're coming with us,"